Peace. This is Jamal Robinson with 720astrology.com. Today's date, February 16th, 2024. It is 8:56 p.m. Central Standard Time. At 10:05 p.m. this morning, Venus made its ingress into Aquarius. At 2:38 a.m. February 17th, it will make its conjunction or form a conjunction with Pluto at 0 degrees 51 minutes of Aquarius. And briefly, I want to talk about some themes around this conjunction. One thing about this conjunction with Pluto and Venus that I think stands out from the other planets that form conjunction. First, we had the sun in January. Then we had, it was Mercury first on the 5th, I think. Then we had Mars on the 13th. Then it's Venus on the 17th. What's unique about the Venus transit is that Venus will travel through the whole zodiac. And in December, on December 7th, it will come back to form another conjunction with Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And this is why I think Venus is possibly the most important conjunction with Pluto of this year. Not only is it the last planet, it's just funny how this is setting up. Not only is it the last planet to come through and form a conjunction with Pluto at 0 of Aquarius, but it comes back again to form the same conjunction in December, right at the end of the year. And this is as Pluto has completed its last retrograde into Capricorn. So this energy with Venus and Pluto for sure has a lot, it seems, to do with cleaning up old stuff. You know, Pluto, as the modern ruler of Scorpio, is going to deal with flushing out. Scorpio is associated with restrooms and the things that go on in restrooms. It's stagnant water. It's the underworld. It's the intestines. It's the rectum. It is the removal of waste. So I'm wondering if this Venus-Pluto conjunction is partly about us getting a last chance or a last push to remove and clear out old waste in preparation for moving into a new tomorrow. In addition to Venus being conjunct Pluto, it's also in a conjunction with Mars. So basically we have Pluto, Venus, and Mars together, clumped up in Aquarius right now. And to add to that, there's a square to Jupiter. So this is a lot going on because Jupiter, it's already complex that we have this 3-planet stellium here, and they're all conjunct in Aquarius. And then Jupiter comes and expands everything that's going on between those. I wanted to be able to come and read. I wanted to read the whole story from the Golden Ass, the story of Cupid and Psyche, because I think it has a lot to do with this transit here. Because Venus and Pluto helps us, whatever Pluto touches in the first place, helps to pull out the truth by displaying the ugly. Venus shows the ugly side of her persona, which is her ultra insistence on vanity and ego in this story with Cupid and Psyche, because she attacks Psyche unprovoked. She attacks Psyche because her ego was hurt. And so the story involves Psyche. She has to descend from a cliff into basically this underworld. Like many movies and stories we see, there's always the main character goes into the underworld or the belly of a fish or the belly of a boat or in a grave, a cave. That same motif of going down into the underworld, which is Pluto's realm. And the main character in this story is Psyche. And so she finds her lover, who is Cupid. But she wasn't expecting to find Cupid. She was expecting to be marching to her death because the oracle said she would never find true love. So everyone's in mourning. Part of what Scorpio teaches is for us to give up. So Psyche has given up. She even tells her parents, stop crying, stop you making things worse. I'm sorry that this is, the way things are. We should have known when people were just lauding me and worshiping me and giving me the accolades that belong to Venus. Although I didn't solicit them, we should have known then that it was going to be a problem. But she had given up. She had accepted her fate, and she had given up. There's so many jewels in that story, and I would like to go back and actually read it. Maybe it's one of those things you can just put your headphones on and listen. But it's a great story. But I think it's fitting for now. So many motifs in that story that fit, I think, the Venus Pluto conjunction. We're seeing what are the facades of love? What are the facades of all of the niceties and luxuries that we hold on in life in the first place? Are we wearing a mask? Are we fake? Is what we are attached to, is it real? These are things that I think that when Pluto and Venus get together, they give us a chance to discover some type of truth. Psyche learned a lot about herself in this journey that she has to go on that is started by Venus. But because she gave in to the journey, to the way, to the path, she was able to find what she thought she would never get. She actually found the love of her life by giving up. And that story shows also the dance between will and fate. Fate would have it that certain situations are presented for us. The will is, hey, how we maneuver with it. We have the planet of the initiation of will, Mars, in conjunction with the planet of fate, which is Venus. And they're both in conjunction with the Lord of the underworld, Pluto. Now, this is a synodic cycle that involves Venus and Pluto and Venus and Mars. So this is a revelatory year, 2024, because in December, when Venus and Pluto form their second conjunction at 0 of Aquarius, they will both be in opposition to Mars, which will be at 6 degrees of Leo. So there's a lot of seed planting energy here around this conjunction between Venus and Pluto, which a conjunction is just like a new moon. There's a seeding. There's an opportunity here to be in depth, to be insightful, to be persistent about digging for the truth and to go beyond the superficial. The danger here with Pluto involved, because we also know Pluto is the center of the story with Demeter and Persephone, where he kidnaps Demeter's daughter, Persephone, and takes her into the underworld. So we know that when Pluto is involved, there's also the chance for extreme jealousy and control and to never feel satisfied. There's never enough to this need to dominate. Now, this can play out in relationship. This can play out with our finances. This can be us hoarding food. It can be us just trying to have control over any resources and controlling people by our ability to procure resources. So that's the flip side to this. So it's all about how we handle this. We can turn into a megalomaniac, control freak, a psychopath with Venus in contact with Pluto, or we can be insightful. We can, as best we can, take a deep dive and dig for a lasting truth, because you always find the treasures underground, the true treasures that that produce the things that we love, that are beautiful, which is Venus ruling Taurus. Those things are grounded in the ugly. because the ugly is where the seed goes. The ugly provides the nutrients. So all those things that we release in the restroom, they have another life cycle. They live through being buried under the ground and enriching the soil. So this is a lot going on here when Venus touches Pluto. We have an opportunity to remove masks, to not be superficial and surface level, an opportunity to dig, to get to a truth. At the same time, we're being careful to not become control freaks and not to be driven by compulsion. There can be a strong lascivious appetite with Venus touching Pluto. It can be on overdrive, but at the same time, there can be a great push to understand the deep nature of what I'm involved with, the deep nature of my value system. What is it based on? To complicate this, these three planets are in a square to Jupiter, and we know Jupiter is the steroid planet. Whatever's been going on, whatever I'm involved in, Jupiter comes and blows it up. So if it's negative, Jupiter can blow it up. If it's a more evolved approach I'm taking, Jupiter can provide some type of philosophy that I can develop out of this, because this is a hard aspect. It's a square, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge to utilize it properly to get something of value. And again, I forgot to come back to this. The fact that we've got these two synodic cycles. On December 7th, we start a new cycle. We've completed this cycle with Venus and Pluto, and they're initiating a new one. But at the same time, Mars and Venus will be in opposition to each other. And if you think about this, relative to the natural zodiac, where Aries is the sign on the natural first house cusp, and Libra is the sign on the seventh house cusp. Libra ruled by Venus, Aries ruled by Mars. So what we have here is the lovers. There is marital energy surrounding this opposition that occurs in December. Now, that doesn't have to literally mean marriage, but it's an energy around partnership. It's an energy around seeing the self and the other. And you got to think, whenever we talk relationship, we're talking scales. So we're able to put two pieces of fruit on the scales, or we're able to put piece of fruit on one side and some currency on the other. And let's see if there's an even exchange. So there's a lot coming out of this conjunction here between Venus and Pluto. And again, Jupiter can make this even more complicated. So again, we can have a push to understand the deep nature and driving force behind desire. It can be an opportunity to develop a sober perspective around love, money, and resources, presenting the need to tame the appetite. Keep that in mind. We're pondering around this time. Am I acting from the ego purely? Am I out of control? Am I acting out of rage? This may be some themes that come up. In addition, we want to keep in mind that Mercury is in a square to Uranus right now. And this can be an excited mind. This can be anxiety. This can be angst. This can be sporadic, erratic behavior. This can be impatience, tower type moments or situations. This can be sudden news that comes up. This can be eruptive communication. Be careful driving, and with especially these are things like fools making sudden lane changes, no turn signal, nothing, crossing 4-lane highways, zipping, and creating hazardous situations. It's that type of energy. The most dangerous thing about these types of aspects, especially things when you got a square with Uranus, all of us are affected because we're human and we are imbued with these energies. But the more evolved you are, the better your chances of catching yourself. That's the thing. And I'm big on watching people when they're driving, because that's one of the two great ways to measure transits and to see them at work is to watch your local roadways and highways and your children, or children in general, to monitor their behavior. And you can see the aspects playing out in real time because you're getting like raw data, unfiltered. So I'm more concerned about the more unevolved people who live purely by how they feel at the moment. And they can be completely swayed and completely grabbed and unaware of what they're doing until they feel the regret of what has been done afterwards. We have a first quarter square moon that is happening at the time of this conjunction between Venus and Pluto. And just a reminder about the first quarter square moon. We got a newborn baby and we have to feed it for it to grow. So the mother has to nurse the baby, but make sure that the baby is ingesting the milk properly, making sure the baby is having good stools, checking the diaper, changing the diaper. It is caring for the baby, because if we don't get it through this stage, then it can't get to the point where it can take care of itself. So it's at a critical phase right here. The actions we take while this newborn baby is still trying to get acclimated to life, this new journey, they're critical because they have a lot to do with how it will develop, or will it even live. So we're pressed to take proper actions right here with the first quarter square, but we also have to be careful about how we act, because again, Venus and Pluto getting together can be extreme. It can be anything involved with Pluto invites intensity. And so are we being too intense? Are we too driven to the point where it's dangerous? Are we becoming harmful? Things we have to keep in check. So although there's this crisis of action, as Dane Rudyard says, and we need to act, we need to do something, we want to be careful to not be mindless in how that's like the theme of this month, and the theme of 2024 is careful assertiveness, confidence, but not recklessness, awareness, while not allowing fear. So this year has a lot of restrained force or careful force. That's the theme, it seems. And we see it here very much played out, because it's like, hey, we got to make sure this baby is eaten, take care of this baby, feed it, love it, clean it, change diapers, make sure everything's in place. But then again, we have to maybe want to consult with someone who's had children, because you want to bring in that wisdom that you can apply to this new cycle that's developed. The first quarter square moon is the unfolding. The new cycle is unfolding. Last quarter squares, which is what we have between Mercury and Uranus. And also, do we have another one? Yeah, Mercury and Uranus. In that very electric charged aspect, we want to find some understanding, because it's the last quarter square. That's why we don't want to get caught up in in being overactive and being reactive and just being unstable. We want to be able to tap into fresh ideas, and some of that is based on experience, things we've seen already. Okay, I remember this. I saw this play out, and okay, I'm not going to overreact because I've seen this play before. I'm going to slow the game down. So we're having to be forced to utilize that aspect as best we can to our advantage, and not to be caught up, because we need to have the reason and rationality that we can get out of a Mercury Uranus involvement or aspect. We need to extract that aspect of it and utilize that where the sun and moon are still an aspect where they're like, hey, the baby needs to eat. So we need to get some wisdom out of the interaction between Mercury and Uranus. We got to be wizards, and we got to figure out how to extract that, how to distill some rationality and some high intellect from those two, because they can produce that's the aspect of enlightenment. You have Mercury, the ruler of Virgo and Gemini, two very analytical signs. You got it locked up with its higher octave of Uranus. Yeah, it's just something productive can come out of that if we're careful with how we manage it, and don't burn the circuit out by just doing a bunch of busy work and not getting nothing done. And then on top of that, making sure that our will is properly being utilized and directed, Pluto, and making sure that what we're doing is in communion with the soul. Does my relationship feed my soul? Are the things I value in alignment with my soul needs? Am I acting in accordance with my soul? These things all playing out, and we're going to see them, the fruits of our efforts. Largely, we're going to see December 7th. Of course, we're going to come back and talk about that as we get closer. And I'm more than likely going to read that story about Cupid and Psyche. This is just a brief synopsis of the conjunction between Venus and Pluto and some other key aspects that are forming around this time. For private readings, I'm available through my website, 720astrology.com. Know the stars to know yourself. Peace.